So, welcome back to another episode of Web3 Insights. I'm your host, Aaron Hayhurst, and today we have a special guest. Joined with us is Ashton Barger. Ashton is the Partnerships Manager at Onchain Foundation and also serves as a co-founder and advisor for Zebu Live, one of the most exciting blockchain events in the UK, which took place last week in London at Woolwich Works. We'll kick off our conversation with a quick recap of Zebu Live and some of the key takeaways from the event. And then we'll dive into Ashton's work on Onchain Foundation, exploring topics like Deepin, RWA, and key factors that are driving long-term growth and real-world impact in the Web3 space. So let's get started. Ashton, thank you so much for coming on.
Of course. Thanks so much for having me. It's super exciting to be having this conversation. I think Web3 Insights, it's a really difficult thing to kind of bring out with different pieces of the industry. There's so much going on. There's so much noise out there. So, I'm happy to be, part of this growing platform you're building here to kind of bring out what's important and showcase, the value of the space and what can be grown and shown with it. So yeah, I'm excited to be here today. Thanks for the invite.
No, thank you so much. Ashton, just covering Zebu Live. Obviously, it's become one of the key blockchain events in the UK. I was lucky enough to be able to attend last week. Unfortunately, I managed to do one day. Such a packed out day. I was so busy.
Yeah, it's nuts.
But can you give us a quick recap of how the event went this year and share some of your major highlights or trends that you observed?
Yeah, it's amazing. For those that don't know, it's the fourth year that Zebu Live's run. The first one was in 2021. It was called DeFi Live. It was very early days back then, right out of COVID, bringing people back together again in London. It was alongside Token 2049 London, which used to be there, but now it kind of stands out as now the UK's biggest Web3 and really crypto conference. And so it's come a long way from a really, I would say, not as souped up venue in Kensington to now in Woolwich Works. It's a really great space, a really great vibe. It has kind of everything you need to run an event. So that really just helped everything come together. People came all the way out from central London, kind of took the trip. They stayed there all day. Either one day or came back for both days, if they chose so. But it's really just great to see what's happening in the UK now, because there's so much potential, but there's also a lot of difficulties. Kind of having a business in the UK, like growing, really just keeping track of regulations and how to just make sure that you're doing the right things and marketing in the right way. And so while there's those challenges, there's also still lots of really amazing communities, really great companies doing some really exciting stuff. For example, Super Team UK launched what they're doing, The Square, which is a huge kind of like co-working hub, startup kind of incubator space almost, in central London, for the Solana ecosystem, for the UK community, and that was really exciting to see. Alongside having Raoul Paul there sharing his Banana Zone project and lots of things that are kind of going on there, and then having Stephen Bartlett close it out it was incredible. Having him back 3 years in a row now, just kind of hearing his insights. He also hearing his change from how he felt about AI last year to how he feels about AI this year, but also how he sees the Web3 space becoming a bit more boring and just mainstream. Really, kind of I think that's where we're going towards. It's not going to be as exciting because everyone's going to start to just be integrating it, not knowing that they're using Web3 technology behind the scenes. A few key highlights. Obviously, I had a panel on Friday, which was really cool. Nice. I got to get up there and moderate at the event. Typically, I'm more of an MC and kind of just host, I guess, of the stage. But this time, I got to really connect with people. I got to really think about what's going to be important in the space and dive into some of the topics that we're going to be talking about today. So all in all, it was great. I think it was the vibe, it was the community, it was the people that kind of brought it together and continues to make it a great event. But yeah, it's a bit of a summary. I'm sad if you didn't make it, but there's going to be recordings and all of that posted online. So make sure you check it out and definitely go next year.
Yeah, definitely. Like I say, I was there on the Thursday. I had a great day. And got to network with so many great people. I haven't gone to many events in the past, and I thoroughly enjoyed this one in a sense of, just being I wanted to see a lot more of the panels than
Mm,
I actually did. I think I ended up watching like one
mhm.
or two or three, sorry, different panels, but you just get connecting with so many great people there, and
Yeah.
sharing information on the space, getting ideas, and before you know it, 2, 3, 4 hours have passed, and you're there then at 9 o'clock in the evening or whatever, still chatting to people. So it's
Mhm.
absolutely fantastic in that regard. What
Yeah.
were some of the key themes or discussions that stood out to you at ZeeBoo Live this year, and how do you see like those trends in particular influencing the broader Web3 ecosystem?
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of kind of what Zebu Live, what's special about Zebu Live is really the people that are kind of helping to really grow the ecosystem at a fundamental level. I think there's lots of conversations around adoption of the space, around marketing, bringing people into the space from outside kind of the Web2 worlds. It's really interesting culmination of artists and people in that cultural side, but then even the TradFi people, the banking people that are really trying to understand and get into the space, how they can implement it, how they can think about it. And so I think it was a really great culmination of those two types of people, and kind of everyone in between. So with that, a lot of people were talking about like, what's it going to look like when kind of these big brands or these big companies continue to integrate the technology more and more. As I mentioned, Stephen Bartlett, being one of the biggest proponents, seeing like gaming, for example, having so much potential for creation, but also game asset changing and, kind of that added layer on top of things that you can really do a lot more with. So I think, we'll get into Deepin and real world assets, but I think, just with those two sectors, we've seen so much growth over the past couple of years, and there's still so much potential there. Looking at things like the telecom industry, looking at things like the real estate industry, there's so much opportunity to kind of have more people be able to invest in and kind of own these things that have since been so hard to have ownership of or get access to. I think it's just really opening it up to communities, to people of all types, to be able to invest in them, to be able to own them, and kind of get the value from that. And so yeah, I think you see this big shift coming in terms of just like where the technology is being used. Now it's going to be used by hundreds of millions, even billions of people
Yeah.
in the near future, which is a huge change from the 100K degens that were just trading all these different tokens in the past. So I think it's really interesting to see how the infrastructure layer almost is really having this huge change. It's taken a long time. It still has a lot of time to go, but yeah, it's been really cool to see.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Switching gears then, let's talk about your work at Onchain Foundation. And for those who may not be familiar, can you give us sort of a brief overview of, what Onchain Foundation does and your role as the partnerships manager there as well?
Of course. Yeah, happy to. Still rather early in my role, but I knew even just interviewing with the company last month how much opportunity there was here, because there's so many brands out there that are, I guess somewhat untrustworthy in terms of like news, in terms of content, in terms of education in the Web3 space, and it's still quite hard to know where to go or what to look for. And I think what's special about Onchain is it's really people that have been in the blockchain space almost since the beginning. So if you know Lisk and the Lisk Foundation, Lisk it was a layer 1 blockchain, now it's a layer 2 blockchain, and they've really built for real world impacts for even work in developing countries, and lots of really valuable use cases that will have impact in the long term future. They kind of took the Lisk Foundation and now it's become Onchain, and it's really opened it up to the ability to kind of highlight all different types of real world impact and real world use cases that are going to have a significant long term sustainability in actually opening up the Web3 market to new people, to obviously people that don't understand it, but they're just going to be using the technology, right? So basically, it breaks down these big topics like real world assets, like decentralized social media, decentralized science. What is it? Why is it important? Who are some of the top projects that are working in that space? What are some of the applications that are being developed, and how do they work? And then from a business perspective, or from a founder perspective, or an investor perspective, like what do you need to understand? How can you kind of think about these trends, and what can you do with that? How can you maximize on that opportunity that's there? And then just breaking it down into different discussions, to help people really, understand it, but also, kind of dive into it. So yeah, it's really kind of like almost a content platform, but it's focused, it's a nonprofit, so it's very unbiased. It's very focused on like, how do we just showcase what's important and what's going to be important, in the next few years. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's super exciting.
Absolutely. No, definitely sounds it. I mean, one of the interesting areas Onchain Foundation is involved in is Deepin. Can you explain what Deepin means and how it differs from traditional infrastructure models? What potential does it have for decentralizing key industries?
For sure, yeah. So it's kind of one of the newer terms, I would say, but actually it was kind of brought about in 2017 by Filecoin. So Filecoin is one of the first kind of DePIN projects, but it wasn't really even a trend back then, or a kind of term. But I think when you've seen some of these other projects kind of come up, it really makes sense to like what's being built here. And so I would say DePIN kind of ticks a lot of the boxes of a great use case in the Web3 space. It provides people with like a huge number of newly investable types of projects or types of companies that hasn't really been available yet. Now you can invest in like, solar energy has been one of them, but you kind of like the hardware and the physical infrastructure that's backing a lot of huge industries, like the telecom industry, for example. Having access to that, making that more decentralized, helping you understand where your data is going, how it's being used, but then also being able to like have control of that. It's really a first time, ability that you haven't had yet. It's been massively controlled by these huge companies so far. So, you can earn tokens, you can have, great rewards there. So it kind of brings the power back to the individuals, of course. And then, based on a report by Onchain Foundation, actually, we kind of compared the top 5 DePIN projects valuation between early 2023 and early 2024. And each project had a growth of over 200% year over year.
Wow.
Like Helium, Filecoin, some of these other big ones. But then Akash had a 1,300% return, which is just insane. That's still
Amazing.
possible in the Web3 space. So obviously it's growing. It's got a lot of potential. I think in order to understand it, you can look at things like the telecom industry that I mentioned, where you can really actually have control of that data. You can run your own node with Helium, for example, and you can actually start to access the space, and you can get rewarded for people utilizing this network, which is really great.
Yeah, for sure. You touched on real world assets earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And real world assets are obviously becoming more integrated into the Web3 space. How is Onchain Foundation approaching real world assets, and what role do you see that sort of playing, especially in bridging the gap between traditional and decentralized finance?
Yeah, definitely. No, I think there's been huge growth in the space over quite a few years now. Obviously, real world assets isn't a new term, and tokenizing it is it's kind of what everyone's talking about almost. Like, what can you tokenize? How do you tokenize it? And what potential is there for growth? And so just kind of like setting the scene, like the term like real world assets is really assets that exist in the physical world that can be brought on chain. They can be tokenized on the blockchain, and the ownership can be proven or couldn't be proven without blockchain, really. Having this like physical deed now put on a digital version of it, you can see exactly where it's gone, whose owner it's changed from and to, and then exactly how it's divided, uniquely into all the different parts. So it really has all of the data, all of the history behind these physical assets, so you can see it, at any point in time, right? So I think that adds a huge new layer of value and a huge layer that you can really kind of divide that ownership into anyone, really. Anyone can have a share of these different real estate projects. For example, you can kind of almost own part of an apartment and get the revenue from that. So it's super interesting to kind of see what you can do with it. But another report by Anshan mentioned that from right now it's basically a market size of about 2.2 trillion. And this is about like market value, not actually like market cap. But it's expected to grow to 15 trillion by 2030, which is a 681% growth rate. And so you can see it's still got a lot of potential. There's still a lot new projects coming out, a lot of really just adoption that's left untapped there, because it's still hard for these really old industries or like, industries that haven't been updated with modern times, I would say for quite a number of years. And so they kind of still need to understand it a little bit, but also have things that they're not going to cost them a lot more. It's not going to be, taxing to their business. It's going to be actually easier to use. It's going to get them more revenue. It's going to get them, it's going to be cheaper for their business to use. And then once you start to see that, more and more, it's going to be easy for companies to integrate it and use it and be like, all right, yeah, I can start to tokenize these things as well. So it's going to still take some time, but obviously there's still a lot of potential in the coming years.
100%. And, those numbers there behind the growth potential are just crazy. There's obviously a lot to come from this, which is what makes it so exciting, right? Being in the space as well.
Sure.
From your perspective, what are the most sort of important factors driving long-term growth and real-world impact in the Web3 space? Whether it's talent acquisition, fundraising, marketing, or other areas, what do you sort of think will help the space grow the most over the coming years, and how is Onchain Foundation particularly contributing to that mission as well?
Of course. Yeah. All great questions. I think what's really important is it's a term I used on the panel as well. But it's something termed by Jim Collins. It's basically first who, then what. So it's kind of like first getting the right people on the bus. And when you think about a startup, when you think about any business, you need the right people at the ground level, or else it's going to be really hard to change that culture, to change people, to, educate new people. And so I think the amount of time and effort that you invest into, your first key hires is massive. So you really have to consider what that's going to look like. What is their role need to be? What do they need to feel like they're a part of the team, ownership and equity and, different things that they can be rewarded with as they meet key milestones and feel like they're part of, the co-founder team, or they're part of, the early team. And so I think it's being able to reward the people in the right way, but then, kind of just like that shared success, almost like once you succeed, then everyone succeeds. And then what, right? So what are we going after, and how do we, kind of survive these different volatilities in the market, these downturns that can be, almost detrimental, where because people are trying to raise money and they're trying to do as much as they can with it, right? But it's not going to go the same way that you thought initially. You're going to have to, have some pivots or have some, adjustments into that scope and what you're doing. But if you have the right people there that are dedicated, that are committed, they're going to be putting in the extra work, the extra effort to make that happen and see that vision come to life. So you may not know exactly what you're going towards, and it's still a lot of people in the space don't know what they're going towards or what the end goal is, but it's obvious that using this technology, there's still so much that we can change for the better. And so it's going to take a lot of time. It's going to take a lot of effort, but if the founders are committed, if the early team is committed, I think it's got a lot of impact. And credit to Christina Kitza, who works at Nucor, who mentioned a lot of this on the panel as well. And hopefully you'll get to see that recording and share it further on. But yeah, it's really important to have people from the Web2 space coming in and kind of helping these projects go to that adoption level, right? That's existing in the Web2 space already.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agreed with everything you said there. And we'll share a link as well when we post this out onto that panel talk as well. I think that'd be really insightful for the audience to watch. Something that I've touched on before as well on the podcast, in terms of allowing people to be, or organizations, or candidates and people in general, to make that transition from Web 2 to Web 3, and building the foundations is the key to that. Hiring the right people with that experience in the Web 3 space and the knowledge and the skill sets and everything else to then, really be able to build and set the foundations, not only from a technical, knowledgeable perspective, but also cultural perspective as well, in terms of building the right culture. Is something, I'm thinking quite heavily on now in terms of building out my team at Savant, is, getting a couple of real senior guys in that have had exceptional experience within Web3 recruitment and recruitment in general, and the right cultural experience as well, to set those foundations and then allow them to sort of hire and build the team in and around those type of people as well. Cool. As the partnerships manager, you're obviously at the forefront of building connections for Onchain Foundation. Can
Mhm.
you share any exciting partnerships, collaborations that are in the pipeline, and how they align with the foundation's broader goals?
Yeah, for sure. And so also kind of highlight a little bit on the last question too. I think it's super important for there to be really trustworthy education that is easy to understand, I would say. And so what we're really focused on is how can we um, have content that's obviously easy to understand and but quick or accessible to kind of everyone really, whether you're in the Web3 space or not. And so I think what we're going to sort of start to transition to is how can we kind of break down a lot of that content? How can we start to think about quick and easy videos and explainer videos, but also hopefully a new way to kind of interact with websites even. So I think our website is one thing that's like a key asset for us because we're able to almost like token gate it in different ways. So you'll be able to collect all the articles as NFTs. There's actually a founding membership coming up soon, so you can
Nice.
basically get access to um, lifetime access to all the different articles, all the different reports published, forever, pretty much. So it's going to be a really great opportunity for people that are committed to furthering their understanding and really, having those sessions each week, for example, where they deep dive into a different topic or different thing that's emerging, and hopefully Onchain can be that almost like source of truth for people that are looking to continue to level themselves up. So yeah, lifetime memberships coming really soon. We have business memberships for larger companies or larger organizations that want to give that access to everyone in the company. So you can kind of almost set that standard that we're all here to continue to learn and continue to push ourselves and understand what's coming in the future. So that's really exciting. But yeah, I think it's just there's there, as I mentioned before, there's a lot of noise out there, right? And so we're trying to almost break through that and be someone that you can look at the newsletter every week and expect really great, updates. You can see the trends analysis that we're posting. You can follow the team on LinkedIn and X and see, all the different things that we're kind of like breaking down and showcasing within, even our own posts. And I think it's just like a commitment as a culture for us to really kind of bring more people on chain, bring more people into the space and kind of push it towards that adoption level that we're all hoping for. So yeah, that's what's coming up. I said the other thing is the decentralized social media report. So that's being published later this week. I don't know if it's going to be published by the time this is out, but yeah, expect that very soon at the least. And then we're actually working on a stablecoins report right now, which is
Interesting.
potentially the most profitable business use case of the Web3 technology, which is going to be really great to dive into. Obviously, there's lots of people that have stablecoins. They're utilizing this technology for sending money all over the place. For swapping to different things, different currencies very easily. So we've seen how impactful that is, and it's really exciting to see where it's going to go and kind of highlight that further. But yeah.
Is there a way that as you were sort of talking there in my head, I was thinking, I can't wait for these reports and stuff to come out because I'd be really keen to sort of read through them. Are people able to subscribe to this to sort of get access to it straight away into their inbox?
Yeah. So what's really great is we already have I don't know the exact number, but I think like 10 plus reports already published on the Onchain Foundation website. So just onchain.org or onchain.org/research. You can see all the research there. There's been DePIN reports, the real world assets reports, lots of different new ones that we're thinking about for next year. We're starting to set out like what are the trends going to be, what that's going to look like. So yeah, you can subscribe to the newsletter, but you can also get full access to the reports with a small fee. You can kind of get about 30% or so of each report for free. So you already get, great insights, great trends, understanding, at a high level, but if you really want to dive in, have that next level of, understanding for your business, you can simply, buy the report or like example, get that sort of annual business membership or that lifetime membership, which is coming up. So yeah, there's the two options right now, and there are probably more options in the future that we'll be looking to release. But yeah, that's what to look out for right now.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely something I'll be doing. However better I can educate myself and yeah, get better insights into the space is something I'm keen to do, which is one of the reasons, of course, I started the podcast myself as well. So
Yeah.
I'll take a look out. Finally, Ashton, what advice would you give to entrepreneurs and developers who are looking to get involved in emerging areas like Deepin and RWA? Where should they sort of start? And what would your advice be in terms of how they should and what they should focus on?
Yeah, well, I think we touched on a little bit already, but I would say just have that understanding of what it is that you're really building from an outsider's perspective. I think it's also something Stephen mentioned on the fireside on Friday, but it's really like, does it need blockchain? Is it could you do it without a blockchain there, right? Like almost just set that question up first. Then once you have that understanding, yes, it needs a blockchain. Yes, it's having this extra added value on top of existing systems. Okay, great. You have that established, right? And then, you have that sort of at least understanding of that direction, right? And then it's, as I mentioned, like get the right people on board, get the right people surrounding you, get the right investors, people that actually care about your vision, who you are as a person, and your potential. Not someone that's going to expect you to get this KPI, this return, this extra thing that it's going to put pressure on you. I think when you're building something like this, you almost need to abstract away all the pressure of fulfilling this huge major thing, but like how can you get the next thing, and then work your way up to that broader vision, but abstract away a bit of that pressure from investors, pressure from the outside world, to just be like, here's where we're going, next week, next month, next quarter. And then from there, getting the next 10,000 users, the next 100,000 users, and then you can get to 1 billion, right? Eventually. But, don't start there, because it's just going to put pressure on you to have unreachable goals, is what it feels like. It's going to be overwhelming, So I think just breaking it down, of course, subscribing to Onchain and Onchain reports, will help you understand that first level. Is the blockchain needed? Why am I doing this? What's the broader impact that this is going to have? And then kind of go from there. For sure, there's lots that you're going to have to put in. Make sure you're committed, and make sure you got your head in the right direction, in the right space.
Yeah, no, absolutely amazing. Thank you, Ashton, for joining us today and sharing your insights on Zebu Live, Deepin, RWA, and the key factors that are driving growth within Web3. It's been a pleasure to learn more about the real world impact and the future trends in the space, and how, particularly as well, Onchain Foundation is helping lead the way. For our listeners, make sure to follow Onchain Foundation for the latest updates. And if you haven't already, do go and check out Zebu Live. It's an event you won't want to miss. I will share some links in the comments that you can go and follow and subscribe to Onchain Foundation, and also some links to some panel discussions and that happened at Zebu Live as well. And as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Web3 Insights for more conversations with the innovators driving the future of Web3. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Thanks,
Awesome.
Ashton.
Thanks so much for having me.